Welcome to the Codecast podcast. Real-world insights for your daily medical coding and billing processes. And now, here's your host, Terry Fletcher.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Codecast podcast. Today, my name is Terry Fletcher. It's Tuesday, May 28th, 2019, and this is the 83rd episode of the Codecast podcast. I hope everyone had a good 3-day weekend. It was Memorial Weekend. I know I did. Well, I worked on Saturday, but then I did take Sunday and Monday off just to get a mental break. I hope you did as well. I always like to think as Memorial Weekend as the binge weekend. So basically, eat all the pizza you want, eat all the Oreos you want, and watch your favorite show, or go out and spend as much time as you can down by the beach, or just whatever your weather allows you to do. Mine was basically laundry weekend, but also spent some time watching a lot of sports, the NBA playoffs, some baseball, and then binge watched a 90s show that I like called The Practice. And I went back from season 1 and got through season 3. I know some of my friends, they're out there binge watching Game of Thrones again. I'm just like, oh, people. I didn't watch that show, never got into it. So I'm probably one of the only people in the universe, and maybe I'm going to lose listeners over that. I'm sorry, but it just wasn't my thing. I'm not into the time period thing. But hopefully you had a good weekend, and now you're ready to get back to work. And you know now it is Terry Tuesday, meaning the last Tuesday of the month. So we have our top 10 Tuesday today. Now, I was compiling my list of 10 coding questions, and I got to number 5. And then while I was doing it, I was listening to a webinar that was being done by the NSCHBC, which is an association that I belong to for consultants. And I was listening to Cindy Walker, who is awesome, and thought, I need to bring some of this information to my listeners as well. And so she was compiling kind of her small list on things that she needed for the perfect billing system, and I added to it. So between her information and mine, I've got a top 10 perfect billing system list that I think is going to be necessary when you try to perfect what you're doing in your business office. So you'll get a top 10 of that, and then a top 5 of the coding questions today. But first, the Codecast podcast is also brought to you by Simple Health Radio. Join Dr. Emron each week on his radio podcast to discuss current health topics. SimpleHealthRadio.com, Houston, Texas. Also, hello to my listeners of the week. We've got, this really sweet gal on Instagram. She's like, I'm sitting at work and I'm listening to your podcast while I'm working and I'm coding and I just love it and it's awesome. But her name is nowhere on her social media. So she is LILITGXX on Instagram. So shout out to you. Also to Tony, to Susan in Connecticut, Kelly in Georgia, Bernice in Chicago. And also congratulations to Angela Knott. She's a great supporter of our Codecast and retweets it for me every week. And she just started her own coding and billing service this past month and got her first 2 clients and listens to the Codecast every week. So I'm very excited for you. So congrats on that. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm trying to decide, do I want to start with my top 10 or my coding questions? Let me start with my top 10 for the perfect billing system. So the reason I think this is an important topic, and follow me when I say this, I think sometimes everyone focuses on the perfect EMR, EHR system. And that does not exist, by the way. I have found many, but there's not a perfect one. But I find that practices are forgetting that they also need a solid, reliable, and efficient medical billing system, or you will not meet your expectations of collection, or maybe being able to be as efficient as you want to be in your central billing office and denials and in your collection processes. I mean, this is Revenue Cycle Management 101 at its finest. And remember, this is your bottom line. And so when, I listened to this information, I was thinking, I've also got some necessities I need, because I owned a billing service in the 90s and sold it in 2007. And it was just interesting to me because I'm still on the board, making sure that everything runs smoothly for this company. But it was just interesting because I think a lot of people settle for their practice management system, for their billing system, and they don't look at, they're trying to say, we have to have the perfect EMR, and they don't look at what generates money and what you really need to be able to follow up on claims. So here are the top 10 billing system necessities that I'm going to bring to you, and this is what I would want in a billing system. So hopefully it's also what you have, or if you're looking to upgrade, this is what you should be asking, and don't settle. Number one, automated eligibility. So your system should have access and ways to find out if your physician is on a particular plan without having to stay on hold on the phone for days. And so this is important. And actually, I had a personal situation this week, which really bothered me, actually. And I'm just going to share it with you. So I messed up my shoulder not too long ago, actually probably about 8 months ago. And for a while, it was just kind of annoying. I was actually swimming and I hit the side, and I know I tore something. It popped as soon as I pulled my hand over. And then I also sometimes sleep on my side. So my left shoulder, I know I just kept tearing it. And now it's hard to lift my arm sometimes. So, and I know that my friend Assassin, my music producer, he gets on me. He's like, would you please take care of this? And so basically I let it go, and now it's killing me. So because of how much I travel and everything, I need to take care of it. So I finally tried to make an appointment. Now, I don't have an HMO. I have a PPO EPO plan, which means money to people. And I called 3 different providers on my plan. And so I'm just like, okay, this is really weird because first of all, a lot of voicemail, a lot of routing my call. One of the offices basically I said, I just want to verify that you're on my plan. You're coming up in my book, but I just want to verify it. And she goes, well, that's really your problem. We don't really deal with that. And first of all, I thought it was rude that she said that. And I'm the wrong person to say that to, let me just tell you. And so then I just said, excuse me? I said, you don't want to check benefits to make sure a patient coming in has that as well? And I said, so you're just taking their word for it? Well, if you don't have benefits, then we'll just bill you. I'm like, okay, bye. And so then the next one is actually was a client, and I try not to do that. I don't want to walk into a client's office and, say, can you help this? But it was a pretty big practice with over 20 physicians. So who knows if they even remember me until I called. And I'm just like, hey, this is who I am and everything. And of course she's like, she was great. So I talked to a Jessica, shout her out. And she was just like, oh, okay. Can you just take a snapshot? Here's my cell number. Just send it over. I'm going to verify for you. And I was like, this is customer service. This is what I like. But I felt bad because then I got an email because she said, oh, let me have your email and I'll let you know. And she's like, I was on hold forever. And I said, don't you have any kind of automated eligibility in your system? And she goes, only for certain things, but none of the Blue Cross Blue Shield plans will access that. So I know that some offices do have some access to that, but that's only if they don't go through clearinghouses and bill directly. But if you can automate your eligibility, make sure that you do. Actually, just to complete that funny story there, as soon as she gets on the phone, she makes my appointment. And then I said, okay, well, I will see you on June 3rd. Thank you very much. All of a sudden she goes, oh, hold on a second. And then I said, okay. And then somebody gets on the phone, Terry, you're coming into our office. I'm like, oh boy. So that was really fun. I just want to let you know it's kind of cute, kind of cool saying, oh, people know you, but you're just you want to keep some of your medical stuff kind of to yourself. But I just thought that was funny. Number 2 is patient balance and eligibility to show on the check-in screen. So your front desk, believe it or not, they need to be part of the process when it comes to insurance claims and making sure that you can do your job as a coder, biller, medical professional in the central billing office. So front desk needs easy access to this information. And if you do not have an EMR, practice management, or scheduling system and billing system and again, these are all separate software algorithms that can interface with each other, your interoperability, meaning you're interfacing where everybody knows what's going on, is going to fail. So make sure you have some kind of billing system that the patient balance and eligibility can show up for the front desk. Number 3 is charges are connected to appointments. So the system warns you when a provider has entered a date of service that's not scheduled. So this is important because sometimes you're trying to figure out where they're pulling that from. And it can also help you capture things when they forget to give you face sheets from the hospital. So I know that the number 3 is a tough one, but there are softwares out there that do have that. And then number 4, make sure you can run reports to PDF and Excel. You should not have to convert it yourself. If a physician needs an immediate report, you want to run it in PDF so it's not altered. Now, for the physicians that listen, I know I have a lot of physicians that listen to the Codecast. I'm not saying you would alter a report, but I do have some physicians that will see data and they will try to change it if they're able to change it. And so we're protecting you. Think of it that way. Number 5 is the ability to run custom reports with all claim and payment data to Excel. So useful for charge and payment internal audits as well. Automated rejection lists from electronic remits, so denials on payments routed to the work list. When you have your AR people that are working your outstanding balances, you want to make sure that those rejections are immediately put on those lists and automated putting there. Otherwise, you have somebody that's constantly doing manual work on things that also take manual manpower to actually provide the tasks. So that should be automated when you can. Automated electronic claim rejection dashboard. Again, the AR staff can work from those. So not just from rejection lists from the electronic remits, but also the rejections as well. And the number 8, automated electronic payment posting with EOBs available on patient dashboard. So you don't just want to see the payment or the denial, but you want to see also the EOB. And sometimes those get archived on some of the systems I've seen that have automatic electronic payment posting. And you should have that. I mean, you shouldn't be posting manually unless you have just, a sporadic commercial plan that doesn't do any kind of electronic. And then number 9 is automated electronic patient statements. Statements should go out weekly after review. I was just doing a review at a practice recently in Arizona, and they said, yeah, we bill our patients once a month. I'm like, why? You need to bill your patients once a week. These are not once a month. They've got 14 days to pay. I've had practices that we've changed their policy to do once a week, and then they have 14 days, and then they get a rebill, or should I say a restatement, because it's electronic, and their cash flow was huge. A lot of patients, especially if there's a way to pay on the patient portal or to pay online, anything like that, they pay when the statement comes in. They don't wait till once a month to the due date. Now, some people do, grant you that, but you want to give a 14-day payment structure and make sure your patients know that in their intake packet. You're basically telling them we don't charge interest or anything like a credit card would because we have a net 14 days. I do that when I invoice clients as well. It's net 14 days. Rarely do I do a 30-day. And I haven't had any issues. You really want to make sure that you're constantly getting your cash flow up to speed, and that should be automated. If you do any kind of manual statements, it costs $25 per statement to send something out manually. To do it as an electronic statement, including taking the call from the patient or them providing payment online, it's only $3.20. Huge difference there. And so there's always cost involved, and you want to keep your costs down. And then number 10, the ability to write charge management rules with the ability to scrub charges with custom rules prior to sending claims. I noticed that a lot of focus on revenue cycle management is on the back end. And I love claim appeals, especially when there's some difficult claims. But you want to be able to look at a claim on the front end. If there are certain rules for certain payers, let's say they want an attachment or they need a drug invoice or they need an op report and they need it attached electronically to the claim before it goes out, it's good to know those custom rules prior to submission so that you don't get those denials that you don't need. And I'm seeing that with a lot of practices where they're kind of just making things so uniform where they're not looking at individual needs of payers. And so your billing system needs to be able to do that, to write charge management rules, and then the ability to basically attach those rules to certain payers. We actually wrote that up as an algorithm for a certain practice management billing company, and now I insist on it. So I absolutely have to have that, and it's made such a difference in claims management, revenue cycle management, and it makes a difference because claims are going out cleaner, and we're not dealing with so much back-end collection and appeals. So now I want to direct our attention to our top 5 coding questions this week. So that was our top 10 on our billing system, what we really need. So one of the things that comes to me, actually this comes quite a bit to me, and I haven't addressed it in a while, and this is about trigger point injections. So I know primary care, orthopedic surgery, pain management, a lot of practices are coding for trigger point injection codes. And you would think it's easy, but we just want to clarify for you in case you're struggling with it. And we're talking about the codes 20552, injection or injections, single or multiple trigger points, 1 or 2 muscles, and 20553, single or multiple trigger points, 3 or more muscles. So as in often the case with CPT coding, you need to look at the details. So the details in counter notes, which is what you'll need to pore over in order to ensure the proper documentation accompanies this claim. Not that you're sending it out with it, but that you can support it should they ever ask. So you know me, I'm always wanting to give you the clinical side of things before I give you the coding side of things. So what types of diagnoses, symptoms are typical of patients receiving trigger point injections? So trigger points might be described as knots of muscle that form when muscles do not relax. I'm sure you felt that. Headaches are another reason that physicians perform trigger point injections, and doctors will call it myofasciitis, myositis, myalgia, myofascial pain, fibromyalgia. Some Medicare carriers ask for a more specific code, and they list ICD-10 codes according to muscle group. And you can find them on almost every Medicare carrier's local coverage determination or LCDs. And so they're very similar in what they're looking for. Also, a CPT assistant, September 2003, coding communication on trigger point injections, they listed fibromyalgia, plantar fasciitis, headaches associated with neck pain, chronic low back pain, osteoarthritis, multiple sclerosis, chronic myofascial pain, joint disease, muscle hyperactivity, scoliosis, and herniated degenerative disc as indications for trigger point injections. So you should report 20552 when the provider injects 1 or 2 muscle groups, regardless of the number of individual injections. It's not about injections, it's about how many muscle groups. And 20553 for injections 2 to 3 or more muscles. So again, the differentiation in the code chosen is the number of muscles, not the number of individual injections. So it makes it important for the physician to document each muscle that is being injected so your coder can actually select the correct code. Also, CPT June 2017, CPT Assistant instructs that this code set is reported once per session based on the number of muscles injected. And so if bilateral muscles are injected, that would count as 2 muscles. Physicians also need to document how they arrived at the conclusion that the patient required the injection, so the history of the condition, exam components, supporting documentation. So your documentation would be something like, a 43-year-old male presents with a 3-week history of occipital and cervical neck pain, unrelieved by over-the-counter pain medications, heat or muscle relaxers. He describes the pain as sharp, unrelenting, and 8 out of 10 on the pain scale. Palpable trigger points are found in the trapezius and the quadratus lumborum muscles. And then in the documenting the actual procedure, the following should be included. So method of technique, equipment used, location of injection, substance and amount injected, and the patient's tolerance of the procedure, and the patient's post-procedure pain rating is also helpful. Question 2 is about shin splint coding, and it's an ICD-10 question. So Terry, we have a question. This is one of my Florida subscribers. A new patient reported to the orthopedic complaining of shin pain. After a level 2 evaluation and management E&M service, the provider diagnosed shin splints. What is the correct ICD-10 code for shin splints? So this answer can be a little bit difficult to track down if you don't know where to look, because the ICD-10 manual, the codes do not spell out shin splints. If you look under shin splints, the ICD-10 index, you'll be directed to S86.89 with an extra digit, and it says other injury of other muscles and tendons of the lower leg level. So once you get to that code set, you'll choose one of the following for your level 2 office visit, either S86.891 and a 7th digit, other injury, other muscles, and tendon at lower leg level, right leg. You want to make sure you have laterality. And then there's left leg, which is S86.892, and then another digit, and then S86.899 for unspecified lead. So you have right, left, and unspecified. And the extra 7th digit is going to be episode of care, because then the S codes, that's going to be an injury too. So number 3, and I'm seeing a trend here. This seems like I'm dealing all with pain management, primary care, and orthopedic. But here we are. So this one is from one of my Georgia subscribers. It says, when a patient reports to our office and they complain of neck pain, what is our ICD-10 code for this? Because it was very generic. So if the provider arrives at no more specific diagnosis than neck pain, look at M54.2. That's for cervicalgia, for most diagnoses of neck pain. But if the neck pain is related to a cervical disc disorder, then you might be able to look at M50.0 section. It's 0.1, 2, 3, 8, and 9, because that talks about cervical disc disorder with myelopathy, radiculopathy, possible displacement or degeneration. And also you're going to need an extra digit for laterality. So try to get your physicians to be a little bit more specific. I was doing some HCC coding this week, and some of the unspecified information that we're still getting from the doctors is really causing some issues when it comes to the risk adjustment score. So get them to get specific. So my next question, we're going to switch gears a little bit, still comes about pain, but it's more in the cardiology section. Still ICD-10. One of my Indiana subscribers said, which ICD-10 code should I use for prolonged QT interval? Okay, so long QT syndrome affects the heart's electrical system. That would be the pacemaker, or that's the computer of the heart, where if you're getting something that an abnormality, then a pacemaker, possibly a implantable defibrillator, is going to affect. So what the electrical system does with QT syndrome is it can result in rapid heartbeat and possible fainting. The QT interval is an indirect measure of the duration of ventricular action, potential, so depolarization, and ventricular refractory period, repolarization. The length of the QT interval depends on the patient's heart rate. So the QT interval is usually corrected for heart rate and denoted as QTC. So don't stop your scan of the ICD index too early when you're looking for this code, because before you can get to the entry for prolonged QT interval, you'll see the entry for prolonged interval, which is I44.0, and that's the atrial ventricular block, first degree. But be sure you code for the QT interval, which is the I45.81. So always try to be specific and don't just stop there. Sometimes that happens and you end up undercoding for that patient. Okay, you'll love question 5 today. It's not really a coding question, but it is a question that I got from one of my Iowa subscribers. So I didn't think you guys knew. I guess I know pretty much a little bit about everything. I feel like I should be on Jeopardy like James Holzhauer is, and how he's just killing it on Jeopardy, because wait till you hear this question. So Terry, we have a question. We have a patient who is new to our practice and recently scheduled his first appointment and mentioned that he is legally blind and uses a seeing eye dog. I know that the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, and other legislation ensures his right to use the dog, but I was wondering whether there are any implications for a healthcare facility. We've never had an animal in our office before. Okay, so what I would do, because again, I'm a coder, I'm an auditor, I'm a podcaster, I'm an educator, but here's what I would do. So the Seeing Eye organization, that's what I would look for, has helpful tips for businesses on its website using tips specific to healthcare facilities. And basically, in a gist, they say if a person can enter a space without requiring additional safety measures, then a service animal should be permitted to enter as well. And so generally, if healthcare personnel, visitors, and patients are permitted to enter care areas, so inpatient rooms, ICU, some public areas, without having to take additional precautions to prevent transmission of infectious agents, so having to put on gloves, gowns, or masks, a clean, healthy, well-behaved service animal should be allowed access with its handler. Okay, but pretty much you need to go to that website, Seeing Eye organization, because you don't know about the animal's health. You can only look at sight, and you're not sure, because what if there was an immunocompromised patient, and are they able to receive visitors without using protective garments? And if you're dealing with an asthma or COPD or any kind of situation where pet hair or dander, or let's say that you're in a allergy clinic, that could be an issue. So make sure you're looking at that organization, and they'll direct you where you need to go. Okay, so today's coding question was brought to you by PAYCOM, Professional Association of Healthcare Office Management, paycom.com. PAYCOM recognized the ever-increasing need for a program that would provide recognition to individual office managers having knowledge, skills, and experience necessary to successfully manage today's ever-changing medical practice. As a result, the Certified Medical Manager, CMM, program was established. To date, it is nationally recognized as the standard of excellence in physician office management. Also, I may be partnering with them in the very near future, so stay tuned from some news on that front. They actually asked me to do and produce a webinar for them, or I'm sorry, not a webinar, a podcast. So stay tuned because apparently I've got spare time to do extra things, but we'll see how that all works out. I'm excited for the opportunity. That'll actually give me 4 or 5 podcasts now that I'm doing. And let's hope my voice just is up to the task for all these different venues that I seem to be diving into. So this week I want to end my personal tidbit. So obviously we just passed a Memorial Day weekend, and we just want to say thank you to those brave military men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms we enjoy today and their families. Also, a kind of a fun tidbit, I actually, once in a great while, I will play the lotto. So I'll just get a quick pick if I stop at a 7-Eleven for a water or something. And I played last Wednesday and I won. Not the big 46 million, so don't freak out. And no, I didn't even come in second place at 40,000. But I was one of 10 people that got 4 numbers and the mega ball for $2,097. And so I have to tell you, it was very fun. I actually always stop at whenever I play, I stop the next week and say, hey, did I win anything? Because I don't know. I don't check the numbers or anything. I just let them check for me and they put it through a machine, because sometimes you look and you're like, wait, did I get it? Did I not? You don't know. But when I went in there, he's like, oh my gosh, you won. Oh, you won. And I'm thinking, I won millions. And I'm like, no, I won a couple thousand. But you know what? How cool is that? I can actually say, yes, I won the lottery. So I was pretty excited. Anyway, so everyone, actually something really funny about that. When he said, oh my gosh, yes, you won. He goes, you won about $2,000. He goes, oh, and here's your tax form to fill out. And I'm like, okay, killjoy. But anyway, nothing but positive vibes here. And until next time, make it a great day. And thank you for listening to the Codecast podcast.
For more information on medical coding, billing, auditing, and compliance, including how to hire Terry, follow Terry on Twitter at TerryCoder1, or visit her website at www.terryfletcher.net. Podcast producer Joe Kuzma. Music producer Dassassin Music.